Hey all, once again, Wild Weather here for liveweatherblogs.com. Looking at the surface map. This is from weatherunderground.com. Thanks for letting me use your site. We see what's going on here. Here's the cold front that's marching through the Philadelphia region, even low pressure developing along it, moving out to sea. Some showers going from the Cape to about 250 miles off the Jersey Shore are moving east. Another little front coming down also. This front will come to about here and then bounce back up. Don't look for any of this cold air that's sitting behind here to really penetrate too much further to the south. This cold front here is a key player in what is going on to the south, and also a key player into why we are not going to see any snow. Basically, we're going to draw a line here. Basically north of this line where I'm going with my cursor here. Anywhere north of that line should pretty much stay generally dry, if you would. Again, north of the Basin-Dixon line, basically, and probably Atlantic City, New Jersey. Uh, Thanks to this front, which is also coming in off the northern branch of the jet stream. Here's your storm down here. Lots of severe weather reported in Louisiana, Alabama, some parts of Mississippi, now getting into southern Georgia, and probably make it up toward the Hilton Head Island area. In this area, probably in northern Florida over the southeastern Georgia is probably the most biggest threat for severe weather, as we have some winds turning with height along this stalled boundary as low pressure moves up this way. Your main low is sitting back here, and when I get to the radar, this is wherein lies the problems, as the storm is kind of a mess when it comes in terms of why it's not coming to the northern mid-Atlantic states, and only will give snow to the Roanoke area and not all the way up the coast. And we'll get into that analysis in just a moment. So you got one piece hanging here, another piece here. The two on the southern branch are staying separate, and you can clearly see it on the radar. I'm going to show you. And there's another piece on the northern branch that's trying to dive down here. You got three things going on down here, but none of them really coming together. And we'll take a look at that in a moment. Let's go to the National Weather Service. Here are your watches and warnings. Winter storm watches now for south central Kentucky through eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, the Roanoke area, western Virginia, and whatnot, and even parts of, say, Mount Mitchell of North Carolina. Uh, Down here in the Roanoke Valley area, Dean Davidson country, get ready. You're probably looking at 6 to 10 inches of snow. It'll be interesting, as I said in my other blog, with temperatures marginal in terms of relation to snowfall accumulation. It'll be interesting to see what the exact end result is going to be. Dean knows this area very well down here. He says, he's told me many times, it's kind of like you live on the foothills of the Appalachians here. Any of these higher elevations out here are fair game. You're almost guaranteed about a 6 to 10 inch snowfall, if not a foot, so long as everything comes together here, especially in southern West Virginia here where the mountains are higher. So any higher elevations down here, get ready for a good accumulation, I would think. Tornado watches and even a warning here still going for southern Georgia and northern Florida. Flash flood warnings and advisories are also in effect. Here is a look at some of the severe weather aspect. Still slight risk of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. A tornado watch is still in effect down here, going from about Tallahassee to just about Brunswick, Georgia. Notice how none of this is getting down into Florida, and it's going to bypass Florida as the storm moves this way. So those areas looking for some rain down here in Florida, which has been pretty dry, not much more than maybe a passing shower, maybe a thunderstorm later on tomorrow, but remaining dry as both these storms pass you to the north. Here are the reports. Oops, sorry about that. Here are the reports. We have 3 reports of tornadoes, 2 back here in Louisiana and 1 near Mobile Bay in Alabama. Wind reports are 40 reports of wind and 6 reports of hail. Most of the wind is looking in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range, and nickel to quarter size hail. A pretty good outbreak for February 18th, as this storm is coming off the southern jet with lots of tropical moisture coming in and up over the top of relatively cooler air, and winds changing with height along a stalled boundary is getting things going here in the severe weather department. Let's take a look now at the water vapor map. Hey, you know what? Before we go to water vapor map, let's go to the Intellicast.com radar. And folks, here's where the problem is. Here you go. Lake effect snow coming, but here's the problem. The cold front has bypassed the Philadelphia region about 3 hours ago. Is now offshore. Front's gone. So there goes your linkage to get anything up off the southern jet. And then you look out here, here's your storm. Part 1, Part 2, and up here is Part 3, which I'll take a closer look on the water vapor map. Now, the problem for not getting any snow north of this area is this. The northern jet of the jet stream, the northern jet of the jet stream is kind of coming in like this and swinging out. So the roadblock is set up. You got high pressure here, another high pressure here. They're not going to allow the storm to move up the coast, nor are they going to allow any phasing to occur, because the southern jet is also moving. It was exactly parallel to the northern jet. So we got part 1 and part 2 remain separate. The northern jet energy is here. If these two parts, this part and this part, if these two parts on the southern jet were one, it would allow this northern jet piece to dig in here, and then the storm will come up the coast. It's that simple. This is the main reason why you're not getting any snow in the Philadelphia, New York City to Boston area, is because the storm's just simply not coming together. Looks like most stuff is moving off to the east, and not sure we're going to get concerned yet if you're in the Roanoke area here, but unless this really gets its act together, we'll see what happens. I'm going to assume that the models are correct, and we're going to see this precipitation break out as the warm air comes north and the cold air comes south. We're going to cause a convergence to happen right in here. You get the lift, you get the accumulating snow. It's that simple. It may not look all that promising for the Roanoke area right now, but things will get started, trust me. Let's go to the water vapor map now, and you can clearly see the players on the field for this storm. It's always good to look and forecast what you think is coming, and to forecast and look at what's going wrong in the forecast, and see how to learn from it for the next time. That's what Rob's site here is all about, here at liveweatherblogs.com. So here's your southern branch storm finally ejecting northward, ejecting out. There's one piece of the storm, the other piece sitting over making severe weather here. These two pieces remain separate on the southern branch, one piece outrunning the other. The southern branch piece here and two here. Here's your northern branch piece diving in. Remember, I was watching it dive in. Well, here it is. The only problem is the southern jet storm really isn't fully together. If this piece and this piece were together, it would allow the northern branch to come down here, and the storm would come up the coast. This area would have seen at least a foot of snow if these two, or actually 1, 2, 3 pieces came together. All 3 pieces, 1, 2, and 3, all stay separate. The northern branch is going like this, so you can clearly see that out to sea, and the southern branch out to sea. It's all you need to say in this woeful misery of winter we call the winter of 2011, 2012. So where do we go from here? Well, northern branch like this, southern branch like this. Maybe you got some good news that perhaps this summer might not be quite as hot as I first think, because maybe the jet streams will head off the hot coming up from the south and bank it off the coast. Maybe we set up with a light northwest flow, which causes coolness and also dampness, with moisture coming up and over the top of a northwest flow. Also, it probably means that this is all speculation. Probably means that the East Coast of the United States are probably in the first part of the hurricane season anyway, is protected by any tropical systems, but that remains to be seen. And maybe next September and October we can finally start looking at what next year could bring in terms of winter. Maybe it'll be a better winter next year. But with all that said, as I talked to Rob in the little conference we had this morning, you never can tell what March can bring in its wild undulations. So we'll see what happens. We've been in this pattern now for about 6 months. On average, patterns usually sometimes can stay up with you until 9 months. So we'll see how it changes coming up over the spring and summer. This is LiveWeatherBlogs.com's Wild Weather. You all have a great night. And if you're in the Dean Davidson country and you're down here in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Western Virginia, enjoy the snowstorm. It's just amazing that the sea of crocuses will stay in media, and the sea of white will be hundreds of miles to the south. Have a great night.